Western civilization is moving closer to a point of irreconcilable, unstable equilibrium, as frighteningly increasing numbers of people trust nothing. Media, academia, and especially the governments are no longer held in high esteem. Regaining trust is often impossible after betrayal. However, transparency is essential to any healing process, and that is the essence of the Don Sullivan Show. Please listen to the team explore, probe, and debate cutting-edge science, technology, and computing. Play ball! Welcome back to the Don Sullivan Show. Vast audience of the Don Sullivan Show. This is the show where we discuss all things that are science, technology, and computing on a level that can be and will be understood by your average American teenager. I am again your host, Don Sullivan, but allow me to introduce to you my partner, Steve, Jersey Steve, to say hello. So say hello, Steve, before we actually discuss the very new and interesting format for the Don Sullivan Show, which I'll leave you all in suspense about. Say hello, Steve.
Absolutely. No, I'm sitting here with bated breath. Greetings from the Garden State, everyone. Today's episode is brought to you by License Fortress, the industry's first and only software asset management firm to offer both a financial and legal guarantee at its highest level of service. Whether it's Oracle, Microsoft, or VMware, License Fortress helps organizations stay compliant, avoid audits, and save money. Learn more at licensefortress.com. And please support our producer by visiting axinc.com. That's axtink.com. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and help support his efforts to create humorous animation and win back custody of his son by entering a high-stakes arm wrestling tournament. Back to you, Don.
I don't know they did that anymore since Roman times. Okay, it's interesting.
Apparently.
Well, at our lawyer's insistence, even with this new format, I need to read out our obligatory disclaimer. So all statements by the host and the guests on the Don Sullivan Show are the personal opinions of the host and the guests, who all agree that the following content is the property of Zonalytics LLC to be used publicly and exclusively on the Don Sullivan Show. So this new format is a panel format, specifically a news-type panel format, in which we are going to discuss the news of the day, the contemporary situations of the day in this format. And this particular single episode, and most likely what will be, I hope, will be a number of episodes on this subject, we are going to discuss the obviously entertaining trial that is now presently happening in Silicon Valley. That is the fight between OpenAI and Elon Musk, particularly Sam Altman and Greg Brockman versus Elon Musk. And we're going to talk about as much as we can, as much as we really understand the nuances and the implications of the legal, the business, and the technical implications of it. It's probably one of the more it's a trial that has more deep implications in those areas than any trial in Silicon Valley for a lot of years, since maybe the Google versus Oracle trial lasted 10 years, or even going back to the Microsoft antitrust suits and those kind of trials. We've got a number of them, but this one is really big, and it's also extremely entertaining already. So let me introduce to you the panel of the friends of the Don Sullivan Show in this new style of the DSS. We plan on using this style a great deal in the future, but first, the purveyor of digital sunshine solutions and all-around experts in the comings and goings of the 6 cities of Silicon Valley. You hear me say that term a lot. I write about it a lot. I use it a lot in my articles. San Francisco, Austin, Research Triangle Park, Boston, Seattle, and Pittsburgh. That's how we've defined the 6 cities in Silicon Valley. But welcome back to the show, Gina Rosenthal. So how are you doing? And thank you for once again coming on. And how is Digital Sunshine Solutions doing?
Hey, everything is going good. It's spring. Everything is growing. So I'm a happy girl, and even business is starting to grow. So that's always good. But I was a little worried talking about this topic until I remembered I changed my New Year's resolution. So on the Tech Aunties, we had a show where my resolution was going to be I would not do any bad talk about Sam Altman this year, since I usually bad talk him a lot. But Marion called that a fake resolution, so I changed it. So I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah, it's not a resolution unless you have at least an inkling, at least an idea that you might somehow be able to follow through on it. So,
Very true.
And welcome back so much, Gina. You've been on a few episodes recently, and we know that you're going to be on a lot more. And again, a great friend of the Don Sullivan Show. So second, Marion Newsom runs Ethical Tech Matters, ETM, and is officially titled a Fractional AI Governance Officer. Best known for the Tech Field Day and frequent appearances on the Don Sullivan Show, keeping us all in line with the ethics and the important value factors of how we should look at artificial intelligence. But so say hello, Marion, and tell me, I've wanted to know for a while, what does fractional AI governance officer mean?
It means that when you can't figure it out, you give me a call. I'll come in and I'll help you with strategy. I'll help you with data, and I'll help you with your board.
It sounds like
understand AI.
It sounds like a movie, Marion, like it's something Dan Aykroyd and I might have been. Give me a call. Who are you going to call? Yeah.
Call me.
We will do that, and we have done that before here on this show, and you have given us tremendous insight, and you have made us think about our own position, place in Silicon Valley as a show and as individual contributors, as we all have been for many, many years, not decades. Now, third, Tony Foster. I'm going to let Tony describe his present situation in life, but Tony himself, and I love this, is a self-proclaimed GPU fanatic. Has been on the Don Sullivan Show in the early days before, and but he is a multi-decade virtualization expert, and I've been working with Tony, and so is Gina, in virtualization areas for at least 2 decades. So say hello, Tony, and tell us, what are you doing these days?
Awesome. Thank you, Don. I'm at Dell Technologies. I am a senior principal engineering technologist, which is a big, long name for a technical marketing engineer. So I get to take cool stuff, play with cool stuff, and then go tell people about cool stuff.
You do that
Is that even that's a great job right there. That's a labor of love.
It's an awesome job. Yes.
It's right on top of your resume. Tell people about cool stuff. I think I might need to add that to my history and my resume too. But most of the recruiters tell me it's too long to begin with. So that's what happens when you get to be the point of multi decades, like a few of us are there, and that does not include you, Jersey Steve. All right.
No, it doesn't, but you should take pride. It's like a wizard's beard, these long beards, they represent wisdom.
Gray beard.
I know.
Interesting.
I haven't shaved in 3 days, so yeah, maybe that's the case. Now, all of you in the Don Sullivan Show audience can't see that because this is a audio-only podcast, and you'll be thankful for that right at that moment. Okay, so
just picture Kenny Loggins,
Yes. So today we want to discuss and maybe debate the implications of one of the most important legal clashes in Silicon Valley ever. At least since the Oracle beat Google on the Java issue, or maybe even the Microsoft versus the Department of Justice antitrust case, the issues here are incredibly complicated. Everyone has been influenced by and had strong opinions, of course, on Elon Musk. It is, of course, difficult to argue that he is anything other than the most consequential figure of the 21st century, even if he does spend way too much time at Star Trek conventions dressed up so we can't see him, or rewatching the Terminator series. I really think he does that a lot. But, he's still incredibly consequential. The nuances here are legion, but basically this case is about Musk having initially founded and funded a nonprofit company now worth an estimated $750 billion, OpenAI, along with and now run by the somewhat secretive Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, among others. Musk claims that he donated $40 million or more to OpenAI at its initial founding because he believes that AI is an existential threat to humanity and wanted OpenAI to stay ahead of the rest of the world technologically and wanted the United States to stay ahead of the rest of the world. Altman has since attempted to, with great success, at least initially, to transition OpenAI with its flagship product, ChatGPT, into an unfathomably profitable for-profit company. And Musk wants to stop the IPO. And I know there's a lot more nuances, but is it really about anything else at the end of the day, to leave my cliches at a minimum? The witness list, as we go through this week and the rest of the next few weeks, is going to be a hall of fame of present Silicon Valley luminaries, and the implications will be historic. This is a jury trial. Strangely enough, it's a jury trial in which the jury doesn't really get a say, or at least not a definitive say. The judge has the final word, and the jury is advisory. So I think I've got at least the initial description. I've been spending time all week watching and listening to various different reports that are coming out of the trial. The judge is extremely experienced, and there are people that are waiting out in front, trying to all night long to try to get one of the few seats that are open to the public. So let's talk. So, Marion, I'd like to start off with you. You can maybe keep us in check along the lines of what we really should be thinking of in terms of overall ethics and the overall importance of what is potentially going to happen. Do I have this right, do you think? I mean, this is, again, a strangely weird jury trial that, again, as I mentioned, it was advisory or subjective. Do I have it right? Do you think I've missed anything in my initial description?
No, but I think that goes to show the kind of the theater of this whole trial. We have a jury, we have super fans, we have a judge, we have two really big egos at play. And so, no, I think you got it right. But what I will say is that even, so-called ego trials actually do produce binding results and binding agreements and things that will actually impact the tech world going forward. So for me, it's more about corporate governance. We've had OpenAI has fired Sam Altman a couple of times, unfired him. The structure of their board. We had a story last week about the CFO, Sarah Fryer, being excluded from those key financial talks about the IPO. And now we have a company whose governance has really been in the spotlight for the past 2 years. And so now we have this lawsuit coming just as they go IPO, which will impact the due diligence around the IPO, will really impact how the SEC will look at that IPO. And so I think it's just another episode of corporate governance with OpenAI kind of getting more dramatic than what it should be.
It was the strangest firing of anybody I have ever seen, in that he actually was able to rally the majority of the employees of OpenAI to, for the most part, almost walk out because the board pushed him out. And it was almost jaw-dropping in regards to how much power a guy who really isn't, at least initially when this all started, wasn't that wealthy. Not certainly, you can understand Musk being unfathomably powerful, but Sam wasn't initially, I don't think. But obviously, the people at OpenAI were very much behind him. There was almost correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to use this word too gratuitously and get us all in trouble, but there almost seemed to be a spiritual extortion that was going on around it when it all sort of reversed itself, isn't it?
It does. So I actually called it a cult of personality, right? So if you have a board that can be swayed by one personality, that corporate governance is no longer relying on those bylaws or corporate binding rules. You're actually kind of letting one personality kind of dictate your decisions. And I do agree. It was very unusual to be fired and unfired and come back with more power than you left with.
Yeah, it's just the strangest thing. So, Gina, I'm sure you've got plenty to add. We've spent many an hour at many a dinner talking about the ramifications of everything AI, and particularly these personalities and others. So what do you have to add to this? Since you now have broken the resolution, you might want to share with the audience.
No, I didn't break it because Marion wouldn't let me make
Yes, you did. You broke it.
All right, so please tell the audience about your resolution, the sort of resolution.
I did in the beginning. So my resolution was that I wouldn't talk smack about Sam Altman. And then Marion said that was not a real resolution. So instead, my real resolution is to make a zine. And I am in the middle of doing that, and it's about AI. So
that is such a cop-out. So you're saying that the resolution was hallucinated. Is that what you're going with?
I'm saying that you told me it wasn't a real resolution.
Nah. Run the tape. Go ahead.
All right. So what do you think about what's going on here this week?
Well, let me talk about Musk. Let me talk about Musk instead. So I think it's really interesting because what I'm seeing from this and what I hope we'll see what comes out of it. I'm not going to give any high hopes for this. They would not let the person that came to talk for Musk and talk about the importance of the right people achieving AGI first and how it could be a human ending event if the wrong thing happens and AGI comes out the wrong way. A guy's name is Stuart Russell. He's a expert witness for the Musk side of things. I think he's a professor, but they basically told him he had to stick to the facts and not talk about the apocalypse. So, I think there's so many things that are going to come out of this. And I think the one thing that will come out of this is it'll be probably one of the biggest legal verdicts we've had so far about AI. So how do we talk about AI? And already they're saying we can't talk about AGI, which for me is great. It's not real. It's something people are trying to do. And you can't fall back on trying to get to something that's theoretical when there's so many good and bad things that are happening with AI we have now. And it's obvious. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was curious. Do you think that any of them actually believe that we currently are or are close to reaching AGI? I guess that depends how you define it, but I still have trouble getting ChatGPT to format things consistently. So it just seems like a ridiculous thing for them to argue about to begin with.
I'm not sure if they believe it. And I think what Marion was saying about cult of personality and the religious experience or you were saying the religious thing, Don. I think there are people who do believe it. And I think there are people who are working, and that's their life's mission, is to try to make it happen. And I do believe that a lot of people believe in it like that. I'm not sure that these two characters do. I think they believe in money and they believe in power. And that's really what this trial is about. I mean, if I was a billionaire, I guess if I gave that much money to what I thought was a nonprofit trying to get to the next stage of AI computing, I might be kind of miffed, because I think he was miffed enough that he quit the entire organization and went and started XAI because he saw them going down the road of being profitable. That's how I see it. And so I guess if I was a billionaire, I'd be mad and take him to trial and at least try to get my 31 billion plus some interest on it back from him. But it's a huge. This is not like small claims court, but it's almost like this is like if it was us, we'd be in small claims court for this kind of thing.
Judy, it'd be one of those things.
Yeah,
but it's a lot more money.
It's a lot more money, and it's over infrastructure. Can y'all believe that? Well,
before I move on to Tony, I do want to sort of extend on that point back to you, Marion. Is it ethical, or should it be allowed? And this is something that
I've never really thought of before, because I've never really seen it before, for a nonprofit, particularly a tech nonprofit that was started with the specific reason to save the world, to be allowed to be transformed from a nonprofit to a for-profit company. The analogy was thrown out there this week that I heard. It was sort of like if you created a charity to save the rainforest and then used it to create a lumber company instead.
So, but restructuring is allowed. Is it ethical? If the people who are investing think they're investing in saving the rainforest and you're out doing lumber, then that's not ethical. Can you do it? You absolutely can do it. It's called corporate restructuring. And there are nonprofits who are in that kind of category that are nonprofits, but they're for profit. So like the guys who sell the watches to save the elephants. Yes, money goes to the elephants, but they are still a profit company. So those are considered nonprofit for profits. They have a name for them. I think the bigger issue is really around if that was your real intention and you restructured to go for profit, what happened to those initial investors? Did you go back and restructure your bylaws, your corporate structure, and get buy-in? And since it still is a private company until it IPOs, the SEC and those kind of disclosures and regulations aren't attached just yet.
If that's legal, if that just in general is legal.
It's legal. It's not ethical, but it's legal.
Well, then what basis does Musk really have for having started this entire suit? And why is it continuing? What did OpenAI do that was either fraudulent or at least in terms of what Musk is claiming, or wrong that this trial should even be going on? I mean, it seems like obviously we're speaking of this on a pretty topical level in terms of, yes, you can theoretically do this, but in this case, why hasn't it just been thrown out immediately?
I think a lot of it did get thrown out, didn't it? There's only particular things that Musk was able to carry forward to this trial. But I mean, I think the argument from OpenAI is that there is no way we could meet that mission without massive amounts of capital. We need it to hire people, the experts, and we need it to build the data centers themselves to do all this work. So that's their defense. So I think that's what the trial is all about right now. The trial is all about Musk saying, no. When I gave you that whatever million of dollars I gave you, you guys said it was going to be a nonprofit for humanity, and now you're making bukus of money. OpenAI saying we're making bukus of money because we have to in order to do all of this for humanity. So that's kind of what the trial is about.
They're burning through the money, too. Tony, you're on chat, and it sounds like you've got stuff to say about this, too.
Yes.
A few thoughts.
Oh, yeah, Tony, let's get you involved here. And specifically, I really would like to know anything you want to talk about, but the tech implications. Is this really just about the profitability of ChatGPT? I think we both know it's not. Musk obviously wants Grok or something else he'll have in the future to be able to catch up to ChatGPT, but there's so much more. I've got some insight myself in regards to some of the projects that are being potentially worked on at OpenAI that are just mind-boggling. So go ahead.
So I'm going to give a short answer because I want to come back to what Marion, you, and Gina were talking about here in just a second. The short answer is, in my personal opinion, it appears that Musk is trying to hobble what he perceives as the leader in AI. That way he can gain a competitive advantage. That's my personal opinion. And that basically means that he's going to be able to get his AI to catch up with where OpenAI is currently operating. I don't know if that's going to be a significant advantage for him, which gets into the whole DeepSeek and using other people's AI to validate your own AI and train your own AI. But yes. Now, going back to the whole for-profit, not-for-profit thing, realize that there are two different entities at play here. There is an OpenAI nonprofit organization. That's where Elon's money went. It is in that nonprofit organization. There is another arm that is a for-profit organization. And the IRS is really, really specific about how funds get to work in things like this. An organization's assets must be permanently dedicated to an exempt purpose. This means that if an organization dissolves, its assets must be distributed for an exempt purpose to the federal government or to state or local governments for a public purpose. Therefore, Musk's money that went to the OpenAI Foundation did not go into the for-profit agency. So he should be suing the for-profit agency if he wants his money, in my opinion.
Is it? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Continue, because I'm still... He wants a lot more than the initial $30 or $40 million that he put into this. And he's obviously insulted that he was not, or somehow he got removed from the initial board too. I mean, this is a case of corporate intrigue on the highest possible level. But so what are you referring to as exempt in this case?
So an exempt purpose basically means you can't use those funds to make money. You can't use those funds to pay board members. There's a whole laundry list of stuff if you go on the IRS website
in this case,
about what exempt are.
You're just referring to the initial funds that were used in 2015 for the initial startup phase by Musk, and you think that is really the only basis he has to have continued this particular litigation?
In my opinion, yes. If let's say that it's you or I. If I write $100 check out to some 501c3 organization and give it to them for the enhancement of park benches in the city park, let's say, and that organization ceases to exist, that $100 either should have already been spent on park benches or it needs to go to some other organization to further park benches, whether that be a state or city or national organization or government entity. But it can't go to the director of the park bench organization and line their pocket. They can't get $100 out of it because they dissolved.
I agree with that, but you can restructure and pay that out, right? So there are ways that you can restructure to get around it. I think the thing that struck me about Musk was he's kind of saying that the conversion from nonprofit to profit really kind of enriches those insiders at the expense of the public that was supposed to serve in the first place as a nonprofit. It seems awful benevolent of him to think of the public that way. And I guess that's where my suspicions come in about the whole purpose and the timing right around the IPO. But I would love to hear more of your thoughts on him kind of using it to kind of say, take kind of the wind out of OpenAI from a technical standpoint.
So from my view, if you can hobble an organization, so OpenAI's positioned for an IPO. If you can take the wind out of their sails on that IPO, which many have suggested this lawsuit is doing a pretty good job on, you can basically set them back because they can't get funds to buy new hardware. They can't get all of the other things that come with an IPO, which is going to inhibit their growth, which then gives him the opportunity, because he has funds and stuff, where he can fund. He does definitely have funds that he can use to accelerate his program. And again, going back to get on par with OpenAI or any of their competitors, and frankly, limit the field. Because everybody seems to be trying to play catch up with OpenAI. OpenAI announces, everybody else then follows suit and says, oh, here's our new model.
So I've been following various different sort of influencer users or mysterious users on X and Instagram. Of course, X obviously is potentially got a lot of countervailing influences here. This one individual named XFreeze writes this. Interesting how it works. Elon puts up his own money, rounds up the absolute best AI talent on the planet, leverages every connection he has to secure serious resources, and launches OpenAI in 2015. And of course, he was only one of a number of people, but as a pure, he launches it as a pure nonprofit, explicitly created to develop AI for the benefit of humanity, with zero profit motive and open research. Then the team, quotes, air quotes, decides they want the bag. They push Elon out, take control, and quietly flip the entire thing into a for-profit machine. Now, this seems awfully one-sided, and I certainly think it is. And again, I'm reading this on X from a number of different posts from this person. Then he refers to the ultimate betrayal. Elon got zero equity. Now, we really may be hitting on what this is all about. Not a single share. He funded it. He built a foundation. He got nothing. Well, they turned their nonprofit into a personal cash cow, which again is estimated now at potentially this IPO at $750 billion. That is certainly, to me, this seems like not only what you're saying, Tony, is that there is a goal of putting a drag as much as possible on OpenAI for the purpose of XAI and maybe others in the industry. But I definitely can see him just being mad that he didn't get any shares himself, and he made a rare mistake on his behalf in regards to how he positioned himself. Does that make sense?
Sounds like he wants a cut.
Well, I kind of just said that, yeah.
I think so too. I think he wants a cut. And I think the timing is not accidental with their already kind of public governance gaps that they have at a corporate level. And then you start to bring suit that's going to trigger kind of SEC, DOJ, and FTC scrutiny around that IPO. And then you start looking at, they've got to do risk assessment, third-party search, all of these different things that could delay that IPO. And the settlement may be, I want shares.
As usual.
My opinion.
Yeah, Tony, I was really kind of extending on what you had said there, but there's so much fodder here. There's so much potential to continue this discussion in so many different directions from every news outlet in the world. Go ahead.
I think there's a technical way too, right, to look at this. So you've got at XAI, all of the leadership, several of the leadership of the operations side have left, and people from SpaceX have had to come in and pick it up. Now we're seeing lots of stuff about how the massive amounts of GPUs that they have is like they're like 50,000, something like that for XAI, they're only utilized at 11%. So all of a sudden you have this other condition that he has with his competing startup, his competing for-profit startup that isn't even able to get the infrastructure right so that they can get to an acceptable amount of usage from the GPUs that they have. So, and to the point that they've got a contract with a startup that they just made a deal with to use their XAI equipment, that they will pay a big breakup fee if they break up, but that they'll automatically can get acquired by XAI. So it's this whole big deal of how do you fix the infrastructure? And that's going on at the same time where he's potentially trying to stall OpenAI's IPO. So I think that's an interesting thing that's going on.
Yeah, Musk is never one to be short on words and always willing to find a way to, I guess maybe second only to Trump himself, in creating headlines or making statements that are inflammatory. Here, NPR says that Musk accuses OpenAI's leaders of looting the nonprofit in court. I mean, he's making these statements, or he said that under oath. He said that they stole a charity. So obviously there's a whole lot of hyperbole that is going on, and it goes on in his mind every moment. But when you combine that with science fiction, $600 billion, you get quite a formula in there for headlines.
I also wonder, since Marion was telling us about all the things that would have to happen with all the different elements of, like for inspecting the startup versus the for-profit startup versus the other entity that they have, which is this nonprofit. What are they having to go through the courts to do that because they are private companies? Would all of this have been done if they were public? Would this have been done out in the open? All right. Is this the steps that they would have taken to kind of dig into some of these questions?
It didn't have to go to court. It didn't have to go to court. Mm-mm.
So why is it then? Why didn't the judge just throw it out, or maybe they don't have an arbitration agreement, but they could have? Well, I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but maybe this.
I guess you can sue over anything, right? But I mean, do you think Elon Musk was but if Elon Musk was a bus driver, do you think we'd even be talking about this right now? Who donated $100? I don't know.
Yeah, he thinks he is a bus driver, but to the Mars, so.
But I think the thing about it, though, the reason I asked that question is, but bus driver to Mars. I just caught that. But the reason I was asking the question is it's all of this out in the open is going to have implications on the rest of us. Is that with governance, AI accountability, even some people are saying down to the definition of what benefit to humanity even means, and that can go really good or that can go really bad.
All right, so that was a perfect segue, Gina, to the most hyperbolic, the most entertaining moment of the week that I have found so far. So in a Musk email in the last 2 years, last couple of years, when he and Sam were going back and forth discussing aspects of the board, Musk writes that the board should have 12 members like a normal board. And then he pauses clearly in the email, and he says, but maybe 16 if it winds up deciding the fate of the world. So he decides that if it's going to decide the fate of the world, there should be 4 more board members than normally there would be on a regular corporate board.
And an even number of people.
That's
right?
an even number of people, yes. So the vote might be 8 to 8.
AI is going to break the tie. AI is going to break the tie, don't worry.
That's true. That's very good, Tony. So go back. Tony, we didn't really get a chance to finish the aspect of the discussion in regards to the technology. What else do you see? Because I know you're on this every day. What else do you see besides the world knows ChatGPT, and the world also knows that there are dozens of maybe hundreds of different projects that are going on that are mind-boggling at OpenAI, along with Google and other places, but particularly OpenAI right now. What else can you share with us? I've got a few ideas myself, if you don't want to disclose anything, but go ahead if you do.
So I don't actually work on this at Dell, so we're good to go from that perspective. But as you said, there are all of these projects that are being worked on at OpenAI. So some of the immediate ramifications that we would see, depending on how this is settled, is some of those research projects may get canceled. Just, we can't keep doing this anymore because we just lost $90 billion.
Which is not actually an exaggerated number, right? That could be very easily a real number.
That is very easily a real number. So I think, if I remember correctly, the negotiations prior to the trial starting was around 90 billion or what, give or take, for a Musk settlement. So yeah, and you take 90 billion away from OpenAI in whatever form, that means they're going to have to stop doing something. And it's probably going to be those interesting research projects that we keep hearing about. The other thing that's going to have a downstream impact, and you can take this and run with the whole AI bubble thing if you want, I don't care. It's very easy to make this connection, is if this happens, OpenAI will most likely stop purchasing hardware or significantly reduce the amount of hardware that they purchase, which means other companies are not going to be selling that hardware, which basically starts a market impact.
It's a cascade effect.
It is absolutely a cascade effect.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. I was wondering to what effect that would have on, isn't Oracle building lots of data centers through OpenAI and they're buying GPUs?
Well, we haven't even gotten into and brought up Stargate and Larry yet. If we might not be able to on this episode, but yeah, that certainly would. Sorry, Gina, go ahead.
No, I just said in Microsoft too.
Yeah, there are a lot of dependencies, things downstream of that. Could it shake investor confidence as well?
Oh, absolutely. If you have a $90 billion settlement in favor of Elon, who else is going to come out of the woodwork and go, I need my money too? And if you're an investor, do you want to be investing in something where money's getting siphoned off left and right to all of these initial investors?
Okay. All right, folks. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything right now. I'm going to ask you all to maybe in 2 to 4 weeks, we can get back on and continue this discussion if you all are available. As we get to a point where the actual in-person live show, we'll say, part of this trial comes to a conclusion, and we will potentially even see what this advisory jury has to say. What I would like before we close out this episode, and I think we're hopefully going to have many of them, and as every news network, I just watched Michael Smirkanoff on CNN have an entire hour-long discussion on CNN about this trial alone when they seem to really know nothing about it because it really had barely even started yet. So there's going to be a lot of media presence on this. But I would like our media presence here to continue and over the next few months and even beyond that. But I'd like to put you all in the spot to start with. I'd like to ask you what, at this point, each one of you think is going to happen. And yes, I will hold you to this from as comical a way as we possibly can as we move on into our next episode. So let's see. Let's start off with you, Gina. Digital Sunshine Solutions. What do you have to say?
I think that it will start to look like it's going to be more favorable for OpenAI, and Musk will want to just do a settlement. I think there's going to be a settlement.
He wanted to. I mean, there was lots of rumors. Tony, you were just alluding to them, that there was Musk attempted to, a couple of weeks ago, reach out to Sam for some kind of settlement, but we don't know what the details are of it. We know what the initial request was, which is kind of silly. I mean, he's one of the few people in human history that actually deals in 10 zeros after numbers. So,
yeah, come back down to earth, because this is going to it's going to go the way it goes for the normal people, just like the normal bus driver. So I think that something's going to happen, and they're both going to get spooked, and Sam's not going to want to spook his IPO. So I think there's going to be a.
So right now, you think that OpenAI is in the lead for the most part, though?
I'm not sure. I think it's going to be down to really once Sam testifies, but he's pretty persuasive normally. So, but I think they have a lot to prove that what they did wasn't to enrich themselves. It's really hard when you look at, is it Brockman? When you look at him and he's like got a notebook saying he wanted to go to billions of dollars, and he's getting billions of dollars now. So he didn't really make a good impression.
All right, what about you, Tony? What do you think is going to happen at this point? And by the way, I will not hold you to this as we go on with the next couple of episodes. You can change your opinion as we move along. But right now, at this point, in the early phase of the trial, how do you see this playing out?
Right now, I expect that Musk will win a hollow victory, and the judge will award him a whopping total of $1.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because the main owner of the United States Football League in 1981, as the United States Football League actually came to a complete collapse, actually won an antitrust lawsuit against the NFL and was awarded $1 because it was determined that he himself was the cause of the actual collapse of the USFL, as opposed to anything the NFL did wrong, which was Legion. And that owner was one Donald Trump. So there we go.
Oh, that's good, Don. You got to frame that dollar if that happens. Put that up on the wall.
Marion, up to you. What's going to happen here?
So I do think there'll be a settlement. I think as they get more into the trial, I think the discovery alone will reshape the AI industry as we start to get a look at some of those board minutes and some of those internal documents. So I do think there'll be a settlement. And I think, not sure who will pull the white card first, but there'll definitely be a settlement is what I'm thinking.
So you're not willing to say who you think's in the lead yet now, though?
I think Elon is in the lead until they start pulling that documentation from those board minutes.
Okay, that's tremendously sage, which is why I had you go last in this little prognostication exercise there.
What's your
vote? I thought you were going to ask me who was the first draft pick of the USFL.
I don't know. Was it Herschel Walker back then?
It was Herschel Walker. It was.
Okay.
And I remember that very well.
So, Don, where do you stand since we've had Marion and Gina and Tony look into their crystal balls? What do you think is going to happen?
Despite how bizarre he is in so many ways, it's usually a bad idea to bet against Musk in the long run. He seems to, even when he loses, he wins. So I think that there is a lot more basic merit and premise. There's the reason I sort of led the discussion towards a question of why has this case been allowed to proceed forward by the judge when it seems to be, as Marion described, a relatively straightforward premise in regards to the legality of what has happened here. This seems to be that there's going to be a few shoes, to me at least, it seems to be there's going to be a few more shoes to drop before we're done with it all. And of course, none of that really matters because there's going to be lots of appeals and so on. And what is really important is the implications as to how, from a business and legal perspective in Silicon Valley, this can all move forward with hundreds of thousands of little startup AI companies, potentially occurring over the next 10 years or so, as Gina and I have discussed, as they build hundreds and hundreds of major data centers. Gina doesn't think as many, right? What about you, Jersey Steve? What would you do if you were 1970s New Jersey style discussion points of getting your settlement?
Well, I think at the end of the day, if this was Jersey style, Elon would have just cracked him on the knee, or say. But this is the billionaire legal version of that.
This is not an episode of Sopranos, but still.
This is the legal version of that. Mm-hmm. So I think he wants his cut. But yeah, I think, as Tony pointed out, the timing with the IPO coming up, certainly isn't coincidental. I think he's trying to slow those guys down a bit. Maybe he's mad he's not getting more out of this.
I think that's ultimately what
I don't know. I guess the bigger question for me is, does it matter who wins this for the average person? Is there a better one versus? Do we have a preference on who wins this? Who are really rooting for?
Well, that's really the reason why we're having this discussion. Go ahead, Tony.
Which billionaire gets control?
Sam wasn't a billionaire to begin with this. And he became a billionaire because of OpenAI. Certainly Musk was. But the real question is, the real important point is what real effect will this have on the way tech and Silicon Valley specifically? I guess that's a distinction without a difference. But the way tech proceeds forward in how various nonprofits are structured and how everything proceeds upstream as the next 5 to 10 years sees these trillions of dollars likely in construction cost of data centers. And heck, as we're going to discuss pretty soon, once we get into the quantum world, this is all going to leap up another order of magnitude. So,
absolutely will.
All right. Anybody want to add anything before we close out this episode? And again, I'll invite you all back maybe 2 to 3 weeks from now to discuss this when the trial itself, the show trial as it's happening right now, comes to a conclusion. Anybody got anything to add?
Hang on and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I think so.
Watch for the bigger implications of, what do we treat AI like? Are we going to give them as many restrictions as we did big tech? Or are they just going to be able to do everything for the good of humanity?
That was awfully cynical.
I'm wondering if I'm wondering if that was a bit sarcastic there.
Marion, take us out. You got anything else to add there, Marion, before we close out?
No, I think Gina said it all for the good of humanity, but which humans, right? So we'll see.
All right. So thank you, panel. Thank you all for listening. And for the good of humanity, I will end this particular episode, but I will remind you that no matter what we're doing, whether I'm having a surgery on one area of my person, or I'm climbing a mountain, or we are finding our way into the strange world of Silicon Valley science fiction tech show trials. Remember, folks, no matter what, that you need to follow this principle, and this principle will guide your life. And that is that all at-bats are situational.